Educational Information and Communication Technology presents Educational Satellite Television Programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on tests used to determine the presence of glucose and starch. This is the first lesson in our unit on human biology and health. In this unit, we will discuss the nutrients the body needs to survive and the concept of balanced nutrition. We will also learn about the human digestive and respiratory systems, along with methods of maintaining a healthy lifestyle. In this lesson, we will discuss carbohydrates and we will learn about two tests that indicate the presence of glucose and starch in substances. Let us begin. Carbohydrates provide the body with the energy it needs to function. Most carbohydrates taken into the body are broken down into glucose molecules. Glucose is used in cellular respiration to produce energy for all cells to utilize. The human body does not store very many carbohydrates apart from glycogen, which is found in the liver, muscles, and brain. Any excess carbohydrates that are eaten are converted to fat, which is easily stored in the body. The most common carbohydrates are sugars and starches. A common sugar that I am sure you are familiar with is table sugar. This is known as sucrose. Glucose is the type of sugar that is made by plants during photosynthesis, and it is essential in cells for energy. Glucose is the best known sugar. It is a single sugar. Sucrose, on the other hand, is a double sugar. Sucrose is made from 1 unit of glucose and 1 unit of fructose, which is a double sugar. Starch is another type of carbohydrate that is a complex compound. It is found in plants such as F and potatoes. Starch is a storage carbohydrate in plants that contain sugar. Some examples include injera, fatira, and rice. The basic structure of all carbohydrates is the same. They consist of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and depending on the simplicity or complexity of the structure, they fall under one of three classifications: simple sugars, double sugars, or complex sugars. Students, based on what we have learned so far, can you list an example of a simple sugar, a double sugar, and a complex sugar?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello, class. I am sure that activity was straightforward. If you said that glucose is an example of a simple sugar, sucrose is an example of a double sugar, and starch is an example of a complex sugar, then you are correct. Great work. Basically, in simple sugars, there is one oxygen atom and two hydrogen atoms for every carbon atom present in the molecule. The formula looks like this. Double sugars are made when two simple sugars join together by a condensation reaction. A condensation reaction removes a molecule of water. Complex sugars are formed when many single sugars join together by a condensation reaction to form a long chain. By linking many simple sugars, or sugar monomers, the complex sugars, or polymers attain some important biological characteristics. These complex sugars store energy and release it as the body requires. Students, let us complete an activity to review what we have learned. Please answer the following questions. What do carbohydrates provide for the body? What are the most common carbohydrates? What 3 elements make up all forms of carbohydrates?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back. How did you do? Carbohydrates provide energy for the body. The 2 most common carbohydrates are sugar and starch. The elements that make up all forms of carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Did you write down the same answers? If so, well done. There are a few different methods of testing a substance to see if it contains sugars. We will learn about two tests, one that determines if glucose is present and one that determines if starch is present. Benedict's test is used to indicate the presence of reducing sugars. In this test, if glucose is present in the substance, copper-2 ions are reduced to copper-1 ions. In this test, a small amount of Benedict's reagent is added to a substance in a test tube. Benedict's reagent contains sodium carbonate, sodium citrate, and copper sulfate. The test tube is heated for 4 to 10 minutes. The solution will start as a blue-colored solution. If it contains glucose, it will gradually change colors from green to yellow to orange to red to brick red or brown. The color change signifies that glucose is present. To test the presence of starch in a substance, an iodine solution is used. In a test tube, an iodine solution is combined with if the turns blue-black in color, starch is present in the sample. It is important to note that there is no heating involved in this test, and only a few drops of iodine solution are necessary. Students, let us do one last activity before we finish our lesson today. Please fill in the blanks to complete the statements.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up! Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello once again. Shall we review the answers together? Benedict's test is used to indicate the presence of reducing sugars. If glucose is present, copper-2 ions reduce to copper-1 ions, and the solution will change colors from blue to brick red. An iodine solution is required to test for starch. By adding a few drops of iodine to the starch sample, the sample will turn the color blue-black. This brings us to the end of our lesson. Today, we learned about carbohydrates. We classified carbohydrates into simple sugars, double sugars, and complex sugars. We also learned about Benedict's test and the iodine test. Until next lesson, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.